This is Luke from Emo Electric, and we're here today to talk about a question that we get all the time from customers, which is, what's the difference between the ePropulsion Spirit Evo and the ePropulsion Spirit 1.0 Plus? In short, the Evo is a little bit more expensive. It has a couple extra features, and the 1.0 Plus is the base model that we find suitable for most customers. As you can see, they look really similar. They're almost identical, and they're really more similar than they are different. They have the same battery, the same prop, the motor's exactly the same, so you get the same range, same run time, same top speed. They're both push button start, virtually no maintenance, super quiet. So either one is a great choice if you're looking for an electric outboard. So the main difference between the Spirit 1.0 Plus and the Spirit Evo, and the most common reason that customers decide to go with the Evo, is the remote steering capability. So with the 1.0 Plus, your tiller is built into the motor. You can raise and lower it, but it doesn't come off, and there's no remote steering option. On the other hand, with the Spirit Evo, you can use it with the tiller as we have it set up now, but you can also take that tiller off and use it with either the top mount throttle. This can be wired or connected to your motor by Bluetooth, or the side mount throttle. So the side mount throttle needs to be wired. You've got the throttle here, and then this is a separate display, but it does not work with Bluetooth. That's another common question we get. It's only the top mount throttle that works with Bluetooth. So if you'd like to do that, you disconnect the communication cable that comes off of the bottom of the tiller here, and then take this pin out, which is reverse threaded, by the way. Your tiller comes off, and now if you're going to use the top mount throttle, you can hook it up by Bluetooth or hardwire it right there, and then the side mount throttle you would hardwire. We find that a lot of sailors go with the Spirit Evo. You can put a locking pin in once you take the battery off, which locks the motor in place, so then you can steer with your boat's rudder and your boat's tiller and just leave this motor locked. But you can also use remote steering. So the remote steering kit is sold separately, but it comes with communication cable for hardwiring, and then a few pieces here that allow you to hook up the Spirit Evo to your standard Teleflex steering. Put this piece in there, get our pin back in. And we're not going to do the full setup here, but just to give you the idea, this mounts right in here, and then this mounts like so, and then your Teleflex steering line would come through this rod, and then you can use the steering wheel to control the Spirit Evo. If you're a sailor and you don't need that function, you really don't need all of the remote kit. Some people like to put on this piece just because it looks a little bit cleaner. You can remove or cut off this piece if you want, but it's not necessary and works just fine without it. So a few of the other features that the Evo has that the 1.0 Plus does not include the remote safety wristband. So this can be used in lieu of a wired kill switch that's attached to your body. You'd put on this safety wristband. I believe you can connect up to 10 of them to one motor. So if anybody wearing a wristband on board your boat falls into the water, that will shut the motor off instead of the kill switch coming off of the tiller. Another feature that the Evo has that the Spirit 1.0 Plus does not is hydrogeneration. So as long as you're using an ePropulsion battery, and by the way, with either of these motors, you can use the Spirit battery, you can use an E-Series battery from ePropulsion, or a third-party battery that works with both motors. But if you want the hydrogeneration function, it has to be an ePropulsion battery. And what the hydrogeneration function does for sailors is, once you're sailing and you're not motoring, if you leave this motor down and the props in the water are spinning while you're sailing, that will charge your battery. It's a super cool feature Unfortunately, for that charge to be meaningful, you've got to be doing 5 or 6 knots. So for a lot of sailboats that are small enough that they only need this 3 horsepower motor, that they don't go at speeds where the hydrogeneration is meaningful, but there are certainly exceptions to that. And the last feature that's nice on the Evo is the upgraded display. So the display here is backlit, whereas on the 1.0 Plus it's not. So if you're going to be using this motor at night, the Evo might be the right choice. And we can also see our state of charge out of 100%. So right now it's 63%. It does give you your range, runtime, power output in watts. If we come over to the Spirit 1.0 Plus, you can see that the display is a little bit smaller. It's not backlit. It does give our power output in watts there. Right now it's 0 because the motor's not running. And then also our runtime there. But our state of charge gets rounded to the nearest 10%. So right now we're missing 1, 2, and the third one's blinking. So we're around 60 something percent state of charge. Right, if we were fully charged, all of these rings would be lit up. If we had 50% charge, 5 of them would be lit up. So you can still get a good idea of your state of charge. It's just not quite as accurate as the display on the Spirit Evo. So another difference between these two motors is the shaft length and the max tilt angle. So both of the motors that we have here are the short shaft. They're exactly the same length. The 1.0 Plus comes in long, short, and extra short, whereas the Evo only comes in long or short. We'd encourage you to take a look at ePropulsion's shaft length guide. It's really helpful if you're trying to figure out your shaft length. We'll link it in the description. But if you have a really short transom, so less than 15.5 inches, the 1.0 Plus extra short will work a little bit better there. And then the max tilt angle is also a little bit different. So if we raise these two motors up all the way, this is the 1.0 Plus, that comes up to 75 degrees, whereas the Spirit Evo comes up to 85 degrees. So you can see that the Evo comes up substantially higher. Now, this becomes important in a few situations. One, if your transom of a dinghy is just a little bit too big for the extra short, so say it's 16 inches, right? It's 15.5 is the max for the extra short. If you have a 1.0 Plus, especially if your transom is angled back, your pod of your motor could drag in the water when you're towing, or if you're pulling the motor up onto a beach. If you're concerned about that, the Evo might be the way to go because it just gets a little bit higher up and thus out of the water. So that about does it for the differences between these motors. Again, they're more similar than different. We find that most people go for the Evo because of the remote throttle capability, but there are a couple little things like the backlit tiller and the trim angle, the tilt angle, that might make you decide to spend a little bit more money and go for the Spirit Evo. So that just about does it. If anyone has any questions on these two motors, feel free to leave a comment below. If you found this video helpful, please like it. And if you're interested in electric outboards, please subscribe to our channel for more content on these motors.